Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Well, hello everyone. Good morning if you're on the West Coast. Good afternoon, I guess, if you're East Coast. Looks like we have some folks from across the pond too in the UK. I'm Alan Prager with Building Ventures. Welcome to today's BVIN webinar. Today we've got StructionSite CEO and co-founder Matt Daly. I think it was about, I don't know, 2.5 years ago when I first met Matt and his co-founder, Philip Lorenzo. It was about the time they were graduating from the 500 Startups Accelerator program. Remember that, Matt? Back, I don't know.
It seems like 10 years ago, but yes, I remember.
Yeah, and so we've kind of followed Matt and the team there and their progress ever since. They've built StructionSite into very successful 360 photo-based site progress and documentation platform. I know many of you in today's webinar use StructionSite within your own organizations, or maybe you've been exposed to it as a consultant on a project. We always thought it'd be interesting if StructionSite could help its customers to extract additional insights from the daily site captures that they create. So when Matt and his team recently added AI and machine learning capabilities to the platform with the release of the new Smart Track capabilities, we thought it'd be interesting to ask him to come on and share with us not only what those new capabilities enable today, but what they're really thinking about in terms of their vision for the future for intelligent project tracking. So just before I turn it over, just a little reminder that the webinars that we do here, they're exclusive to you, the Building Ventures Innovators Network. They're intended to be an open conversation between the entrepreneurs that we have on here and you, who really are the design, construction, real estate experts and advisors that form the BVIN. So your insight and feedback, it's extremely valuable. Questions and suggestions are always encouraged. Yeah, and so with that, I'll just hand it over today to our guest, Matt Daly, the co-founder of StructionSite.
Hey guys, good morning or good afternoon, or maybe good evening. It sounds like if you are indeed across the pond, as Alan mentioned. I guess for all of you here in the Innovators Network, my name is Matt Daly, one of the co-founders and CEO here at StructionSite. And what we're building is an intelligent project tracking software for construction teams. Started the company in late 2016 when, as Alan mentioned, Philip Lorenzo, as well as Dan Zito and Manuel Zamora, and myself came together to deliver a piece of software that would make it easy for builders to automate the process of capturing and actually tracking the work on site. To date, we've got over 300 customers that have captured over 5 million 360 photos across more than 10,000 projects. And some of those numbers are growing exponentially at this point. Today, I'm pretty excited to share with you guys a little bit about the story of StructionSite. So kind of where we've been, how we got here and where we're going in the future. Before we get into the agenda, I would actually kind of love to do just like a quick pulse check on you guys out there. If you could open up the chat box or the Q&A, I don't know that it'll matter either one. I'd love if you guys could type something in there. And while you're looking for the chat box or the Q&A, I'll just mention that there's probably 4 to 5 points during the discussion today that I'll probably pause and just ask you guys for a little bit of input and feedback, via that chat tool. It really just to kind of keep things interesting and engaging, both for you guys and for me. I know we're in webinar world these days. There's a lot of webinars happening, so I want to try to keep you guys as engaged as I can. So once you've got that open, would love to just hear type in a 1 if you've actually met someone on the StructionSite team, and a 2 if you have never met anybody on the StructionSite team. Awesome. I'm seeing a lot of 1s. That's great. For all of you that have, welcome. It's good to chat with you again. For those of you that haven't, really excited to have you here and share a little bit about us. So the agenda, as I mentioned, we're going to go through a little bit of greetings from London. Hello. There's a little bit about us history-wise, and I'll try not to spend too much time here, but I do think it's important for those of you that are trying to get to know us a little bit about where we've been, and then just looking forward into the future to talk about, what did we learn so far, and then looking forward into like where all this that we've learned is taking us, and would love to get some feedback from you guys along the process as well. As I did mention, I'll probably will pause and just ask you guys to jump in at a few different points. So our company was founded a couple years ago with myself and a couple other co-founders, and each of us brought something very different to the table. But all of our experience, ranging from reality capture technology with things like laser scanners to software engineering, of all those things, really nothing was more important than the experience that Philip brought from his time in the field working as a contractor. If you happened to join us at the StructionSite Summit last week, my co-founder Philip shared his backstory, where as a project engineer for a large general contractor, he often found himself managing trade partners, implementing new technology, and experiencing a lot of the pains that drove him to develop the earliest version of StructionSite. The initial idea was really just to come up with a way to virtually visit job sites, which is kind of ironic because that concept has never been more relevant than today during times of COVID. And of course, just trying to solve some of these challenges of coordinating complex and rapidly changing field conditions with anyone on the team without requiring that everybody's physically there on the job site. So why do I bother to share all this with you? And it's because we believe the DNA and the culture of a startup team matter a lot. And starting our journey with somebody on the team that has actually done the work we are planning to automate turned out to be a really good decision. A little later in the discussion, I'm going to actually jump into some of our sort of guiding principles for building and actually delivering products to our customers. And it really all stems from our DNA in construction. But experience as a contractor is not enough. We believe that battle testing our software in the field is really the right way to do things. Put it under the most extreme conditions and make sure that when it gets into the hands of your super or your foreman, it actually just works. Can anybody guess what structure we're looking at here? Go ahead and type it into the chat if you'd like to venture a guess at what this very large structure is. Or you could just say no idea. If you have no idea, that's totally acceptable as well. I got Alan saying Chase Center. Anybody else want to venture a guess? All right, well, Alan, you're the winner. Our only guess is actually, in fact, yes. So this is the Chase Center in the Bay Area, new home to the Golden State Warriors, 18,000 seats, 580,000 square feet of office space, another 100,000 square feet of retail space. Myself and several other co-founders on the team were on this job site every single Friday for almost half of a year, manually capturing this job site with static 360 photos. Once the framing started to go up, it was taking us half a day or more just to take pictures of this job site. So not only was the capture work exhausting, it was way too time consuming, and we really just knew there had to be a better way. And that's why we created Video Walk, which is basically, for those of you that are not familiar, is a workflow sort of born from our own experiences in the field. You don't have to stop and take pictures. You just hit record and walk the job site. Our software automatically reconstructs the path you walked, place those pictures on the plans for you. This was a huge time savings for our customers as far as capturing the job site goes. But the main thing that this did was it unlocked our ability to do what comes next, which was trying to answer this like age-old, very challenging, very hairy question of what actually got installed today on the job site. So this summer, we launched a product called SmartTrack that can start to answer this really important question: what did we actually install today? And we make that an automated process for our customers. So using the 360 image data that is already collected in a video walk, combined with your existing quantity takeoff data, we can provide a visual map of what's installed, a production dashboard, and a CSV export that you can also import into your ERP or cost accounting system. So you walk to the job site on a Thursday afternoon, and you wake up Friday morning with a production report. This is not something that you're going to see at some point in the future. This is something that we are actually delivering to customers today. If you didn't have a chance to catch our summit last week, there's a really great presentation with one of our early customers, Southmost Drywall, where their superintendent, Ron Rankin, and CFO, Brendan Murray, are talking about how the software impacts their profits and the happiness of the people in the field. Uh, so that was a little bit about our past and what we do today. Before we jump into the future, I want to pause and reflect on some of what our team has learned this far that is really going to guide us as we go forward. So in the next 4 slides, I'm going to share with you guys some of our guiding product principles and some of our core company philosophies, some of which we've had since the beginning of the business, some of which have sort of emerged in the early days for us as we've started to build this company. And I want to share them with you because I think they're a good window into how our team thinks about making products and actually supporting our customers. And our first principle is truly grounded in our experience in the field and the construction DNA on our team. And it's do what's needed, not what's flashy. There is a lot of technology being brought onto the job site today. It's not all useful. As a software vendor, it takes a lot of discipline to stay focused on solving problems for our customers in the most practical and cost-effective way possible. And a lot of the time, that means doing something unsexy that just works, as opposed to doing something that looks flashy. Our team is, of course, continuing to innovate and play with the latest technologies as far as seeing what's ready for use today. But if you're super informed and can't figure it out in 30 seconds, we're probably going to put it on the shelf until it's ready. And this is such an important but really simple philosophy. You own your data. That means not only can you download all your raw files for project closeout, but we're committed to being an open system so that your data can flow from StructionSite into other applications, even if those applications might be considered a competitor. And this is not just lip service. My co-founder, Philip, and our first product manager, Bree, are active leaders in the U.S. Institute of Building Documentation and Construction Progress Coalition, which are 2 organizations that are committed to creating open standards for the sharing of data across software systems in a non-proprietary format. You own your data is a really big one for us, and hopefully for you guys too. Next, we want to focus on giving you a superpower, not a supercomputer. What I mean by that is we want to build technology that's practical and easy to learn, and that's going to give you an immediate benefit and not something that you have to invest a ton of time and energy into before you actually get value. And we know that that's just not the case with a lot of different pieces of technology that are being deployed today. I would say a lot of the success of our company so far could be the result of our product team really focusing on these 3 mantras. First is our product needs to be intuitive such that it requires no training to get started and minimal training to actually get things scaled up within your company. We need to be highly reliable. We want to build bulletproof workflows coupled with best-in-class support teams that can actually support you guys when you need us. And finally, you got to win the field. If the field team loves the product and gets value from it, the entire project team, as well as the executives and everybody back in the office, is going to benefit from their adoption of the technology. So no training, be reliable, win the field. Does that sound like another software construction company that some of you might be familiar with? How about PlanGrid? Philip was one of the first PlanGrid users back in 2011, and we actually recently added a VP of product here at StructionSite. His name is Tom Alterman, who was the first product manager at PlanGrid and actually went on to lead a pretty substantial part of that team through their acquisition with Autodesk. The next section of this presentation is actually put together by Tom, but I'm just going to share my thoughts with you guys as we sort of talk about the future. So as we're sort of shifting gears into the future, we're going to look at where our team and our customers are actually taking us. And I do say our customers are taking us too, because some of you on this call are customers, some of you are not. We do our best to really engage the group with what we're trying to do as we go forward. Our focus is on combining reality capture data with cutting edge artificial intelligence to combine, to answer these 3 questions in this order. And the first question is, what did the job site look like today, last month, or last year? So really creating like a complete visual record of what happened on the job site. And while that's mostly an insurance policy today, that same data is also the foundation of what comes next in answering these next 2 questions. And the second question is, what got done and are you on track? And this is really about production. It's really about schedule. It's really about, are you on track to make money on this project? And the third, I think, is maybe one of the most difficult questions to answer, certainly in an automated fashion, and we'll talk about our approach here. But is it done correctly? And this question is really about quality. We know that if we can help you effortlessly and consistently answer these 3 questions, you can guarantee that your projects are running smoothly, and ultimately you and all your partners are going to deliver a profit and happy customers. This is really a new category of construction software, and it's called intelligent project tracking. It sits next to your other core systems of record, like your project management or your ERP systems, but it's completely focused on aggregating reality data, analyzing it against the plan, and then feeding those other systems with real data about the status of your projects. So not data that was manually entered and most likely a best guess, but quantifiable and verifiable data that you can trust because it's backed up by date stamped and location based photos. And that's really, I would say, like a core defining feature of this type of software is it's not manual entry. It's imagery that is being extracted and therefore something that we as humans can trust a lot more easily than a number that was, fat fingered into a spreadsheet. It's really one of the things that's going to be very different about this next wave of software than what we're dealing with today mostly. So let's talk about what that future could look like. What did the job site look like today, last month, last year? A lot of the focus to date has been around this question, and it's mostly answered by our site documentation product that you guys see today. But it's worth noting that there's a ton of work to do still here. We're not by any means done answering this question, but we feel like we've laid a pretty good foundation with the data we're collecting here and how you guys are using that and getting value from it. Many of you have been using our video walk functionality to make it even faster to capture this information, sort of turn it into like a Google Street View type of experience for your job. And although we released this over a year ago, we've definitely been continually investing in this technology to make it faster and better every day. We've actually made it 10 times faster in the last 6 months alone. And that's while experiencing exponential growth, substantial exponential growth in the amount of people using this type of documentation, especially now because of COVID, as a way of just tracking what's going on their job sites. This is really just the start. We're continually investing in this area as well so that you can get access to the information you guys need as soon as you need it. So right now we've invested a lot in 360 photos because we know that that's the easiest and cheapest way to get an understanding of reality on site. But we are fundamentally not a 360 photo company. Our focus is to be the repository of all your reality data, no matter where it's being captured. That's why we're working to make sure that wherever you're capturing information, it can be easily uploaded, managed, and made sense of in StructionSite. So whatever you're using in the field, we want to be there with you. And that could mean 360 cameras. That could mean robots. That could mean drones flying inside or outside of a building. It could mean laser scanners, or it can mean time-lapse cameras. We are truly a hardware agnostic company and plan to integrate with any of these sensors and really any sensor that is needed to answer those 3 core questions that I mentioned earlier. So some of you are reading some text here. Getting a category very expensive in terms of time and effort to educate the market. Yeah, understood, Ian. We got a lot of work to do educating. But I think it's going to be a combination of educating and at the end of the day, it's not going to be us as a company that decides this needs to come into existence. It's going to be you guys in the market that decides something like this needs to come into existence. We're going to share our vision for the future with you guys here, and I think the most important outcome of that is getting feedback from you guys about what you believe that vision needs to look like. At this point, some of you are definitely starting to wonder how a system like this might fit into your existing technology stack. So we actually made a little bit of graphic. We made a graphic here to help you visualize that. So today, there are several all-in-one platforms, which technically do allow you to bring all these different types of reality data into one platform. In fact, we integrate with most of them. You've got Procore, Autodesk BIM 360. There's a number of others that are sort of up and coming. But there are some pretty notable limitations to that approach. And I would say the most important limitation is that there's not a shared coordinate system. And what that means is the reality data coming in from all these different imaging systems still exist within a silo within that all-in-one platform. So without a shared coordinate system, it's really not possible to take all of that information and compare it to the plan and determine determine if rates of production, the schedule and everything is actually on time, on budget, as per the plan. So we can see all these images, we can see all these videos, but they're not telling us anything that we can't already see with our own eyes. And the data is not being extracted in an automatic way or giving us production insights. We definitely see a future where all this reality data can feed into one place first, where it's analyzed for you. Quantities and updates that you need are then sent into these other systems of record that you see below. Whether that's design, whether it's cloud storage or project management, ERP systems would fall into that bucket as well. The idea is to aggregate a lot of it. You can see the sort of layers here. You're taking in a lot of different data types. You're bringing in the plan, which we're doing this with SmartTrack already. And SmartTrack is just 360 photos to the takeoff. That gets SmartTracked, and then that feeds into your ERP system or project management. The goal in the future is to continue to expand that into all these other sensors and to try to answer different questions about different trades. I don't think I mentioned it explicitly, but SmartTrack is really focused on the wall and ceiling trade today. But obviously we'll get into that actually in a couple of slides. A lot of our customers are not willing to wait for that future, and they're pushing us to deliver on this vision today. So this is actually Andis Construction in Dallas, Texas. They've been testing the DJI RoboMaster to do automated capture. Other customers have started testing Spot, the Boston Dynamics dog, and using it to capture video walks for them. We're seeing several different customers upload drone footage so that their exterior data can live in the same place as their interior data. Autonomous capture is a significant part of our strategy going forward. And this is a place I would just say, keep your eye on in the next 12 to 24 months. We're not feeling entirely bullish on a lot of the current autonomous capture solutions that we have seen. We are starting to get excited about some of the ones that we see coming to market in the next 12 to 24 months. We do believe it's going to take some time for this information to, for that technology to really become practical. But obviously it's a space we're excited about and a place that we're doing a lot of work in the background to make sure that we're at the forefront of whatever technology ultimately successfully can navigate a job site without human intervention and can be that capture workflow for your teams. So once we've got all this photographic information, we can actually do some pretty amazing things with it. This is a detailed 3D point cloud generated from a 5-minute video walk instruction site. Those of you that are familiar with 3D laser scanning will know that this allows you to pull measurements and create models of existing conditions, but it's not horribly accurate. It's accurate to the point that you can see what you see here, but it's not a laser scanner. So we're not just interested in point clouds generated by photos. We really do know that for certain critical work, you need the accuracy down to 1/8 of an inch, and that really does mean laser scanning. Fortunately, this is another thing that is really in the DNA of our company. This is Rhythm, a company that my co-founder Philip and I started back in 2013. This product provides one of the fastest and simplest workflows to date for using 3D laser scan data to measure slab flatness and levelness, monitor the structure pre and post concrete pour, track material quantities for flooring work. So it was very focused on floors and monitoring and these sort of like structural, documentation and analysis tools. But this is something that we're continuing to look at how we integrate this type of technology into what we're doing today here at StructionSite, where it's not just 360 photos, it's looking at what we can do with laser scan data as well. For those of you that are using laser scan data, we're definitely imagining some workflows here that seamlessly merge 360 photos with laser scans and make all that information accessible to your super or your foreman in the field. Laser scan data has historically been in the domain of VDC teams and a lot of work in pre-construction. And that's because the data is generally not optimized for viewing on a mobile device, right? But that's what your field people are using. They're not sitting in front of a computer all day. They have their phone and maybe an iPad. Pulling this data into StructionSite could change that and put this information in the hands of your people in the field where they need it the most. And that's obviously something that we're pretty excited about. We have a few customers manually doing this today because it's a workflow they feel very passionately about. Our job in the future is to automate some of those processes and make it a more practical, scalable workflow that you could get anybody on your team to do without a lot of manual work. Speaking of LiDAR, we're pretty excited about, I know I've got my phone sitting somewhere here, this guy right here, which is the new iPhone 12 Pro, which has actually got LiDAR built into it. We see this as a really easy way for you to get fast and low resolution mapping of a 3D space. Not only could this allow for doing things like quick field measurements, but it might ultimately completely replace the need for a 360 camera when doing a video walk. If there's one thing that we know about winning the field, it's that removing any friction from the capture process can yield massive dividends in terms of the quality and the quantity of data, making it from the field back to the office. If that means giving field teams a video walk workflow that requires only their phone, that is definitely a future that we're going to be working towards. And so I think it's important to also note that sort of as we're becoming this repository for reality capture data, it's also fundamental to us that you should be able to share this information and move it to wherever it's most valuable for you. And that's why we're committed to providing an open API to allow you to connect any other tools that you might be using. So whether that's an ERP system, a project management tool, or any other great product that you're looking to get value from and that's going to make your teams more productive, we want to be able to move this data where you need it. We believe that closed silos are damaging, not just to your business, but to the greater amount of innovation that's actually happening in this industry as a whole. At StructionSite, we want to be the ones fueling this intelligent construction revolution that we're seeing right now. And that really starts with making our data open and accessible where it's needed. One of my favorite examples of this so far about how open data and integration benefits our customers and the industry is a deeper integration that we're currently working on with the Smartvid team. By allowing our shared customers to automatically get photos. And for those of you, I know, Nick, you're here as well, images and photos from a video walk to, not just static photos, but also video walk images to StructionSite. I've got a question here that I'll jump into in a second. But basically this workflow here with Smartvid is getting this data into that platform, have it analyzed there, for different safety and risk factors that Smartvid can look for in order to get a better understanding of safety and the overall risk profile of your job. I've got a question. Have you signed up for the open API for AEC Charter? I'm actually personally not familiar with that, but I'd love to hear more about it and introduce the folks on our team to it. The two organizations I mentioned earlier, the Construction Progress Coalition and the United States Institute for Building Documentation, the two open data, I would say there's some work being done on both fronts related to how 360 photo data is transferred from system to system that will standardize the rotations and the views. And if I put a tag in an image, does it show up in the same spot in our software as it does in another software? So I'm not personally familiar with Open API for the AEC Charter, but like I said, would love to hear more about that. The way that sort of wrapping up the Smartvid integration, the way that this is going to work is that as issues are detected in Smartvid, they're going to be tagged and sent back to StructionSite. So that information can also be explored in our system as well as Smartvid's. What I love about this workflow is, and Josh, their CEO, and I mention this all the time, is you do one thing and you get two things back. The team performs capture once and gets value from, getting their data processed in StructionSite as well as Smartvid. We created a pretty lightweight integration with them previously, but are planning to double down on a more direct integration with them. So definitely keep your eyes peeled for more of what we're doing here. As the industry becomes more data-driven, we're going to continue to working on ways to maximize the value that you guys get from the data that you're collecting in our software by getting it to these other places. So last week at our summit, our team actually announced enterprise analytics product that's going to be available in a couple of weeks as well. For those of you on the call that are customers that are basically on an enterprise plan, you're going to get immediate access to this. Basically, it allows you for accessing real-time data and pretty detailed information about how StructionSite is being used across your company, across your projects, all the way down to individual users. It's going to give you really unparalleled insight into knowing how your teams are adopting the tool and following the processes that you have defined for regularly capturing the job site. So we're committed to not only showing you this information within our own product, but also allowing you to connect this to tools like Power BI and Microsoft and other enterprise analytics tools that you probably have already developed and deployed. I'm going to stop and pause here for a moment to see if there's other questions that you guys want to ask. I have a feeling everybody's going to be quiet today, so feel free to type it in the chat box, as some of you have done as we're sort of going along here. Very much questions are welcome. We're going to move on to the next big question that we are trying to answer for our customers, which is what got done and are you on track? As I mentioned earlier, this is a pretty hairy question to answer, and one that's historically, I think, eluded an automated way for our industry. This is really where the most recent SmartTrack product comes into play for us. With a pretty high degree of accuracy, we're able to take those video walks that you're doing on a weekly basis, automatically analyze them, and tell you the quantities installed, percent complete, and production rates for your critical drywall and framing scopes. As I mentioned, we are currently focused on the wall and ceiling trade. Eric, I see your question, and I'll jump to that in just a second. But basically, the way that this is working is, for the first time ever, a wall and ceiling contractor is going to have a highly accurate and automated understanding of production, which is going to help you be certain about whether or not you're on track, and helping remove some of the guesswork or negotiation that might be happening for work that's actually been done. For general contractors, this really removes any of the guesswork that is required to understand whether your trade partner is on track, and if they're not, kind of arms you with the data to have a more healthy and positive discussion with that trade partner about their production and where they might be coming up short. We know that you guys need insights as to where delays are happening, when you still have time to fix them, right? Not when it's too late, the schedule's been severely impacted, and you're like definitely losing money. You want to make sure that you guys know about that early. As I mentioned, wall and ceiling scope is where we started, but really the future holds quite a bit more than that. Question from Eric is curious if owners have expressed much interest in having reality capture of completed projects as a part of the turnover documents at completion. I think that's an awesome question, and I think owners need a lot more education about what's possible here. I think the more owners know about what we could be delivering for them, what you as a contractor could be delivering for them, the better. And I think the more savvy owners, the ones that are building a lot and are just repeat projects and building over and over, they're asking the most questions about what they can do with this data. There's, I would not say yet, a really great and well-defined workflow for transferring this information from construction to the owner. I know ViewOps is actually one of the products that we had mentioned as another application where this information could potentially go, and it would be a good example of a place that this data can and should probably go, so that in the O&M phase of that building, it's continuing to be leveraged when the construction is over. So it's critical that we're capturing it all during construction. I think we as an industry have a long way to go making that data more valuable in that phase of the building when it's being operated. That's a good question. Thanks, Eric. So as I mentioned with SmartTrack, we started with walls and ceilings. We got a long ways to go here. We're exploring all critical scopes of work so that every trade partner has access to an automated and accurate production tracking. This is going to allow us to provide general contractors and owners with a high-level view of all the critical path trades that help you know if you're on track, and if you're not on track, where to go focus your energy so that you can start solving problems. Expanding into the different scopes is going to happen pretty quickly. We're not ready to go public with an announcement on the next trade we're actually releasing, but we do have a beta that is coming soon. And I just want to invite any of you here to have that discussion with us directly about what's coming and whether or not that's something that you'd be interested in actually testing out. I want to pause for a second here because I've shared a few different scopes here. I'd love to get some feedback from you guys in the chat as you're sort of looking at what's here, maybe something that's not here. If you could pick the next couple trades that you would want a tool like this to track for you, what would those be? I'll give you guys a couple of seconds to pop that in the chat. And I'll repeat the question too. It's basically, the question is this: what other trades would you want to track that you feel like would be the most valuable for you as you're trying to understand whether or not your project is performing well, whether or not your trade partners are performing well, and whether or not you're going to make money? John says MEP without a doubt. MEP, I know that we've looped it together here. Obviously, we see those worlds. We see those worlds as being a bit different, but absolutely. I'm sure it's one of the challenging ones, but I've seen so many projects that got behind in MEP so often drives the finish date. Yep, absolutely, totally agree with that. Jerry says MEP exterior skin. Nick is saying love them all. Concrete is the most valid for us as a large self-performer. Yeah, absolutely. I, like I said, would love to have chats with all of you. Eric says drywall and concrete trades. Would love to have that conversation with you guys. The concrete trade it lends itself very nicely to what we're doing next, certainly. So does exterior skin, actually. So there's a number of things that we're tracking towards. We do also understand a lot of our general contractor partners are self-performing concrete. And just generally anything related to the structure is obviously on the critical path. So that's awesome. Really appreciate you guys' feedback there. And I'm going to just move forward and keep sharing with you some of the things that are also being worked on, I think, in parallel, regardless of what trade we're actually planning on doing next. Really where this takes us in the future with you guys is identifying all the critical work that's going on, when it first appears, and when it's finished. This is going to allow us to truly understand how much of your schedule and your estimates reflect reality. And this is not, sci-fi stuff. I know there's a tendency to sort of like sell the big vision for the future and be very challenged to deliver that. So I'll share that this is actually a workflow we've been experimenting with alongside Webcore on their SFO project in San Francisco. Been able to help them identify when critical work first appears in the photos and when it's completed, which is really giving them the most accurate view of progress that they've ever had access to. It's a very different view of production than what we've been delivering for SmartTrack as far as trade partners. But what we're hearing so far is that from the perspective of a GC, this is the highest value data that they could ask for as far as understanding if the job is on track. So there's really these sort of two worlds of how we view progress on the job site, and the lens we look through with the trade partner is different than the lens we look through as a general contractor. And we're exploring this workflow in particular to be more focused on the lens that we look through as a general contractor and what we want to know to help us make better decisions about what's going on our job site and how to go have healthier discussions with our trade partners. And do that early and not late, before it's too late. All right, so we're going to move on to our final question here. And this one's really about quality. Is it done correctly? And I think I mentioned at the beginning of this discussion, we think this is the hardest question to answer. It is the most nuanced question to answer. Production is really about, is it in or is it not? And if I'm using computer vision and machine learning, if I see something there, there's a certain amount of confidence I have that that's installed. Quality is more nuanced, is a little more subjective, but it's also higher stakes, right? Like we need to be more than 99% sure this is actually right, because an automated workflow here could do a lot more harm than good. And really that's why our focus is going to be about giving you more powerful tools to help you make the decisions yourself and your teams make the decisions yourself and just streamline a lot of those workflows. And so let's talk about what that actually means to us. First, this means being able to compare design from BIM against reality on the ground. We've already got an integration with Navisworks that a few of you might actually be using, but Navisworks is not a tool that everybody has access to on the job site. And we also know that it's not the future, right? It's going away. It's not the future. It's not where we are headed. Some of you may have seen at Procore's Groundbreak conference that their keynote Basically, we're working with an integration with Procore BIM, which is what you're seeing here. That allows you to take the models on their platform and do sort of that quick heads up comparison that you're seeing here, to be able to compare what the images are saying to what the model is actually saying. We're also going to be partnering with Autodesk to allow this same exact functionality with the models that are being stored in Autodesk's construction cloud. And on the Procore BIM side, what this also is doing is actually allowing our customers to have the same sort of tool set in our app that they have in Procore BIM. So if you want to take a measurement, you can still do that in StructionSite using the integration that you see here. Again, that's a measurement from the model. We know that it's not just important to sort of have this like comparison tool. When you see something, you got to be able to take action on it. And that's why we're kind of committed to make sure that basically you can do all of your QA, QC, and punch list workflows remotely, which is something that a lot of teams are being challenged with today. We're working on a deep integration with BIM 360 issues, which I don't know if any of you attended AU yesterday, but they launched Build, which might be a totally different set of APIs. I'm told the APIs will be overlapping and that they'll work together, but the environment is pretty rapidly changing over there at Autodesk. And so we're just trying to keep track of that. But regardless, we're committed to building an integration with issues and whatever comes next for Autodesk, if that's Build. And basically what that allows you to do is link and, create a new or link an existing issue to the StructionSite, 360 photos, so that there's a bidirectional communication between those two platforms. Excuse me. I'll keep moving here because I know we're running a little bit up on our time. We've talked a little bit about incorporating BIM into StructionSite and our ability to create point clouds as two sort of separate workflows. Getting reality data that your teams are capturing with our site documentation tool. But what about if we bring both of these types of workflows together and let you actually just compare a 3D data set from your images with what your model's actually telling you? I will say there's a little bit of irony in this workflow for me personally, because I spent 9 years at Faro Technologies, where a lot of what we promoted was the ability to perform a comparison like this using laser scan data in the model. And of course, the major hangup was like project teams were not willing to invest the time to go out and scan their project every day. I get it. It's too long. It's too time consuming. The data processing takes forever. So we never really got to realize this vision that we saw for like, can we actually just do a comparison between the model and the reality data that we're collecting in a 3D way? I think there's a lot of work to do here before these workflows are practical. Those of you that are familiar with BIM know that some of the major limitations are like, what's the LOD of the model? How quickly and often is it updated? Anything we're using as a benchmark and a reference for what is done or what is complete, if that data set is not being updated as often as it could, and if our comparison and our benchmark is not accurate, there's just a lot of challenges there. We love BIM. We're investing more and more in it all the time, but we also want to be aware of its limitations in the way that it's developed today. So let's try to wrap this up with sort of a single vision that we have for the future and the type of software that we're building here at StructionSite. Using reality captured data and sort of layering in some of these new advances in computer vision and machine learning. It's a type of software that's, we want to deliver that historical record of the job site. We want to help you understand what got done, ultimately help you determine if it got done correctly in whatever way we can automate that, but also just supporting that with manual workflows where that's more appropriate. Intelligent project tracking software, we believe, is going to fundamentally change the way that we manage our projects. When teams in the field are less focused on manually tracking the work and more focused on moving the job forward, really great things can happen. There actually is a white paper that was written by our friends over there at DPR about the value of tracking production. And it wasn't just about understanding the impact on profit. It was about giving the team a scoreboard that they could look at and measure themselves against and get excited about beating that target. And so culturally, there's value for that as well. I'm going to leave you guys with a pretty funny quote from Ron Rankin, a superintendent at one of our early Smart Track customers, Southmost Drywall. He says, compared to manual tracking, using StructionSite is like the difference between flying to the moon and riding a horse. This is actually a quote from our summit last week that I just thought was really funny. If nothing else, we have a lot of fun with our customers over here at StructionSite. we're super grateful for everybody that has helped us get to where we are. And that list is long and full of people that we've absolutely had a blast working with. So yeah, just thank you to you all, and appreciate you guys jumping in here. And I would love to give you guys a chance to ask more questions, and share anything you like. If you would like to reach out, there's my email, matt@structionsite.com. Obviously, would love to hear from you. But if there are no questions, then I'll just say thank you guys very much for joining, and appreciate you sharing some time with me.